After a little break, I'm back to check out more video nasties. And surprise, surprise, the 5 movies in this video, they aren't even that bad. Well, not all of them at least. So let's dive right in. I will start with a generic slasher. Or is it? The Dorm That Dripped Blood. I believe it was originally released as Pranks, and then the copy that I watched, it was titled Death Dorm. So, sounds intense. Let's just take a look. I really like 80s slasher flicks, you know. It's one of my favorite subgenres of horror, even though often as a guilty pleasure since many of them simply aren't that good. Here's a perfect example. So, 4 college students, they stay over at the dorm during a holiday break to clear it out because it's gonna be demolished. But an unseen killer is stalking and, well, killing them. And for a generic 80s slasher flick, that was almost even a long plot description. So, let's see if we have the right ingredients. Well, we have an isolated location with a group of teenagers, or whatever age they're supposed to portray. A psycho killer using everyday objects to murder and shots through his point of view. And of course, gory killings and some nudity. Plus, some bonus points for the obligatory fake scares, cut phone lines and incredibly red herring. Yep, looks like a slasher to me. The acting sure isn't great.
Alright, that sounds great.
Especially by this lady. Yeah, very convincing. But at least the main characters are quite likable for a slasher flick. I mean, it's not like kids back in the early 80s had posters of these actors on their wall, but they're not unlikable. The lack of posters could also have to do with the fact that most of these actors quickly realized that pursuing a career in acting wasn't really for them. However, it is the acting debut of Daphne Zuniga, is that how you pronounce her name? Who went on to become quite successful. Here she gets run over by a car by the killer. Yeah, the killings, they're pretty cool. Sure, the effects aren't great, but the kills are fun and there are enough of them to keep you somewhat entertained. In between the killings, not so much, so while the pacing is, well, you know, it's okay-ish. And it really isn't scary or frightening. I mean, the tangled telephone wire is probably the most frightening thing in the whole movie. Still, the dark atmosphere, okay characters and gory killings make it at least watchable for dedicated slasher fans. And it even gets a little suspenseful towards the end. Not a lot, and the ending is also pretty stupid. But it does have a quite unconventional ending, you know, for a slasher flick. But that's for you guys to find out. One might wonder why, out of all the hundreds of slasher flicks that were released around that time, why this is one of the few that actually ended up on the Video Nasties list. But I guess it is just one of the many magical wonders about the whole Video Nasties era, the whole phenomena. For the next movie, however, one of the classic Video Nasties, it really isn't that hard to figure out why it was on the list. The Driller Killer. And really, not even that much the graphic nature of the movie itself. It was mostly the title paired with this classic VHS cover that worried the authorities. Vipco even took out like several full-page ads with that cover in different video magazines. And, well, you know, you just gotta love having that cover on the shelves of video rental stores for all the little kids to take home. Yeah, this one is actually almost solely responsible for the start of the whole Video Nasties craze. So, sounds interesting. Let's just see what all the fuzz is about. So, with a title like The Driller Killer, one would expect a gory slasher flick. And that is, according to the hardcore fans, the reason this movie isn't always well received. Because if anything, it's an urban drama with slasher elements, or art house horror, whatever that's supposed to mean. Anyway, director Abel Ferrara's debut film, as in a feature-length non-pornographic debut film, in which he himself stars as Reno, a struggling painter. He can barely afford the bills, he's stressed out because he has to finish a big piece of work, and to make matters worse, the landlord brings in a punk band next door that is practicing 24/7. And they make that very clear in this movie, since you're gonna see a lot of this. Anyway, the drilling killing comes in when it all becomes just a little too much for Reno, and he goes out to kill random homeless people. It's not super graphic or anything, but according to the fans, that was never the point of the movie. But unlike these fans, I personally didn't really care for this movie. I'm able to appreciate the gritty portrayal of New York City, and while I'm not the biggest fan of the whole punk subculture, I see how it plays a part in the movie. And I get the whole urban paranoia aspect of the movie and Reno's slow descent into psychosis. But I just didn't really care for it. I found it rather boring with mostly unlikable characters and even some really annoying ones. And perhaps that's all part of the whole, like the whole young adolescent angst and urban nihilism. But in that case, I guess it's just simply not for me. Or maybe because I didn't live in New York in the mid to late 70s that I'm not able to really appreciate it. But I don't think that should be necessary to like or enjoy or even appreciate a movie, you know? I really don't know what else to say about this one. Some people think it's an underrated cult classic. I didn't really care for it at all. The director, Abel Ferrara, he went on to make some well-regarded movies, like Miss 45, King of New York, and Bad Lieutenant. So, that's nice, but the Driller Killer, I don't know, guys. So, let's just move on. And really, with all the opportunities or reasons I had over the past, almost 7 years to review the next movie, it has come down to it being on the Video Nasties list. It's ridiculous. Yeah. The Evil Dead. Without a doubt one of the, if not the most popular and well-known movie on the whole list. So, let's just do this. The Evil Dead. It's classic. This one doesn't need an introduction, as it is perhaps the most famous horror cult movie of all time. And everybody loves it, right? I mean, it feels like you can't even say that you dislike this movie if you want to be seen as a real horror fan. And I think that's a little stupid, so I'm gonna try to have an objective look at this movie. So, 5 college kids go to a cabin in the wood where they release ancient demons who start to possess some of them, and soon there's total chaos. It's obviously a very, very low budget movie with poor production values, but in some cases it sort of helps the movie. The gritty 60mm film look and the mostly handheld camera work gives it a look and feel that sets it apart from, well, many movies on this list, but also a lot of movies released around that time. And they get really creative with the cinematography. For example, the now famous Unseen Spirits point of view shots, which are, they're really cool. And while the makeup and gore effects aren't good, they're even pretty poor in some cases, they're just a lot of fun. The stop motion animation near the end of the movie, it may seem dated, and I guess it's an acquired taste, but I think it looks pretty cool and it definitely gives this movie a unique twist. The gore is so over the top that it surpasses being scary or gruesome and becomes, like I said a lot of times already, just a lot of fun. And some of the makeup, like the girl in the cellar, it has become quite iconic. But mostly what I believe a lot of people appreciate about this movie is the fact that it's just a couple of 20-year-old friends going out of their way to make a horror movie and, succeeding quite successfully. Of course the story isn't that great, neither is the acting or like I said the special effects, but it works because the end product is really just a lot of fun and almost never boring or dull. Really, if you compare this movie to a lot of other titles on this list, this one is just so much more entertaining than most of them. So, whether or not it was meant to be serious or intentionally campy, I believe that the first one is true. In the end it doesn't really matter because just watching it's a fun experience. And I definitely wouldn't say it is overhyped as some would argue. I mean, it was popular back then, it still is popular now, and over time it has spawned 2 sequels, a remake, a shitload of merchandise, and an upcoming TV series. And on top of that, both the director Sam Raimi and the main star Bruce Campbell, they went on to have big careers, So say what you want, I think it's a classic. That'll probably mean that the next one might not be as good, but who knows? Evil Speak. I don't know. Let's just take a look. Apparently Anton LaVey, the founder of the Church of Satan, was a fan of this movie, so let that set the tone for you. So, we're at this military academy where we follow Stanley Kubrick, Cooper Smith, or as his fellow students call him...
Nice game, Cooper Dick!
It's clever, right? Yeah, he's being bullied all the time by basically everybody except this guy and the school chef. The bullies aren't the most clever though, as is evident in this scene where they try to pull down his pants, but this one guy keeps pulling on the wrong leg. The other bully is like, dude, knock it off. Also, how old are these guys supposed to be? Aren't they a little too old to be bullying? So, of course, in case a building isn't built on an old Indian burial ground, it's often built on the land once owned by a satanic leader sent there by the Spanish Inquisition, as is the case in this movie. So eventually Stanley, he finds all this satanic stuff in the cellar, and I don't really know why, but he decides to get really into it, and with the help from some super cool early 80s technology and fake speed typing, he succeeds in resurrecting the satanic leader's soul that then takes over Stanley's body, and then all hell breaks loose. So it's sort of like a bully and revenge type of movie, you know, as in rape and revenge, but then with bullying being like, you know, like rape of the emotions? Maybe. Anyway, like Carrie, you know? So just like Carrie, it has an all-out finale where everybody gets what they deserve for bullying Carrie, Stanley. And really, that's where all the fun stuff is. The effects, they aren't convincing, but it's fun and sometimes quite silly. The bullies were fucking assholes the whole movie, so it's nice to see that they get what they deserve. Yeah, not so tough anymore now, are we? Unfortunately, the fun ending is a little rushed, and really, the whole movie, after an okay start, I mean, it doesn't look bad, the music is pretty cool, but quickly it becomes a little slow, and really, you're just waiting for Stanley to resurrect the satanic leader. But, hey, it's not bad. Not fantastic either, though. I mean, the story, it is pretty silly, but I do think that Clint Howard, that's actually Ron Howard's little brother, I thought he was well cast as Stanley, you know? It's the type of kid that you wouldn't bully because you would be afraid that one day he might go psycho, you know? But you should never bully in general, okay kids? Okay. So, last movie for today in this video, Exposé. Also known as House on Straw Hill, and this is ironically the only British movie on the whole Video Nasties list, which of course is British. So, ooh, I'm expecting crazy stuff. Let's take a look what kind of nasty videos you guys produce over there in Britain. So here we have an erotic psychological thriller about a writer who goes to an isolated location on the British countryside to work on his new novel. And his publisher sends over a new assistant to do the typing, you know? That's the whole setup. Oh, and this chick, she comes over every now and then, played by 70s British sex symbol Fiona Richmond, who, in my opinion, just looks a little creepy. And really, the only reason she's in this movie is to be naked, you know, as eye candy. She's naked in literally every scene she's in, even if it's just her ass or some booby grabbing. Even in her death scene, she's naked. The only time she's wearing clothes is when she's being picked up from the train station. At least she shows some decency there, you know, it's a public location. Anyway, the new assistant, she's like horny 24/7, masturbating every possible moment she gets a chance to. And at one point, the movie turns into a rape and revenge movie. You know, just like the bully and revenge story with evil speak. But here, the revenge takes place literally 40 seconds after the rape started. And yes, I've counted them. Also, she didn't really seem to mind the rape too much. Weird girl. Anyway, she starts killing everybody around the house because, uh-oh, spoiler alert. And if you really don't want to get a mostly forgotten almost 40-year-old movie spoiled, skip to here. So anyway, the writer stole his first mega successful novel from the husband of the assistant, and then he committed suicide, so she is pissed off. Great story. The movie is very slow and it takes forever before things really start to get in motion. But I didn't hate it, to be honest. It had a sort of offbeat vibe going on that kept me interested. And it looks pretty nice, especially on this HD transfer. Although I have no idea what's going on with the sky in some scenes. Could just be a fault in the video that I bought. Also, I usually like Udo Kier, and although his character is an asshole in this movie, he's still pretty cool. The effects are pretty shitty and really not that shocking. Yeah, I believe in this case it's mostly just the many sex scenes that got this movie on the Video Nasties list. And well, maybe the 1 minute long rape and revenge subplots. That's Exposé for you guys. It's worth checking out if well, if you think it's still worth checking out after seeing this little review, I mean, that's totally up to you. And, well, that's all for today. Like I said, really not that bad, the movies this time. And nice for once that most of these were treated with a nice HD transfer, you don't see that every day. And really, for some movies, it can do wonders, if you compare it to watching the same movie on the VHS quality. So, I'll see you guys next time when we take a look at some F movies. Movies that start with the letter F. Some might be graded an F too, but that's for next time to find out. Until then, have a nice day.